It's time to sit down and relax for the good, the bad, and the sequel Q&A with your host, Doug.
Hey there, Doug here. Happy Tuesday, and we have a bonus interview for you. So I was lucky enough to interview an actress from one of my favorite horror movies of all time, The Hills Have Eyes, and that actress is Suze Lanier Bramlett. Suze was so interesting. She pretty much does everything that you can do entertainment-wise, and you'll hear it during the interview. We also talked about how she played Chrissy on Three's Company. She was in Welcome Back, Kotter, and then she took a break and went into the music industry with her husband, Downey Bramlett. So yeah, she's done it all. You're going to love her. So here is Suze Lanier Bramlett. Enjoy.
So, how are you tonight? Where are you? Where are you, actually?
I'm in New Jersey.
Oh, New Jersey. Is it cold?
Yeah. Actually, it's kind of weird. This winter, we haven't gotten anything really yet, like one snowstorm, but really not that cold. I was able to take my daughter out for a walk today, which is nice.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I just got back from taking my dog for a walk.
Yeah, nice.
However, I do leave for St. Louis in the morning, bright and early, and I understand it's very cold there. So.
Oh yeah, no, the Midwest is pretty rough in the winter, but well, that's cool. What are you going there for?
I'm going to do a show with an actress named Cleo King. We do a workshop here in Los Angeles. I did it last year with her for Black History Month, and
nice.
it is, but she calls it Love History Month. We did 2 shows on Sunday, and the audience loved it. And it's just trying to bring people together and see our commonalities rather than our differences.
Yeah, that's beautiful. No, that's really cool that you do that. This is your first time ever going to St. Louis?
No, I played St. Louis in, let me see, sometime, it was around 84, I think, with Donald O'Connor. I did a comedy with him called Wally's Cafe, and we did a long tour throughout the United States, and it was wild. It was really fun. So St. Louis was fun.
Did you ever play Jersey at all, or New York?
I used to live in New York City.
Oh, nice.
I went to NYU, and I lived on the Lower East Side in Manhattan. And so I love New York. It's my favorite city and probably would live there again, except that I live near Malibu. And so it's really beautiful, and I love the ocean, and I love the mountains. And so when I'm in New York, I get a little claustrophobic. So,
oh, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. So what I like to do with these is like really talk about obviously some of the fantastic credits that you've had over the years, but how you got started. So where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Dallas, and I was walking across the park when I was about 12 or 13, and I saw this group by a picnic table, and I was curious, and I went over, and there was an adult man with these kids, and I figured out that they were having an audition for a play, and the man was the director, and so I asked if I could audition, and it was called Winnie the Littlest Witch, and I got the part of Winnie the Littlest Witch because I was always kind of more petite than my friends, and so I got the part. And so I won an award that year in Dallas, and I got the bug. So I started taking drama, whenever we could in school, and then I went to junior high school with Morgan Fairchild. And so
cool.
Morgan's mother was very supportive of our acting. So she would drive us to, we did a couple of plays at a professional theater in Dallas called Theater 3. And her mother would drive us to rehearsal and bring us home. And I'm very indebted to her mother's last name was McClenny, Mrs. McClenny, because I don't know that I would have had the path and the journey that I had without her.
That's amazing that somebody stepped up and helped you out, and all these years later, that's a cool memory to have, that somebody was like looking out for you.
Yeah, and Morgan and I are still very good friends. I talked to her yesterday, so
look at that. That's
we're
cool.
we're very, very close. And when I do my cabaret show, I always give a tribute to Mrs. McClenny, because she was so instrumental in my life. My mom and dad were just normal, average Texans who go, you're going to be what? No, I don't think so. You need to get a college degree and, get married and have babies, and, whatever. And I did end up having a baby, and I did get married a couple of times, but they got their wish, but I still did not quit acting. So
that's great. So how quick after that? So you do the play, you win the award, and then you do some at big theaters in Dallas. When did you think about going to NYU?
Well, I got a job after school in high school as a DJ at the radio station, the biggest rock and roll station in even that area, not just Dallas, but in that whole Midwest area called KBOX. It was huge.
That's awesome.
And so I got a little exposure doing that. And I never thought about doing film. I my love was the theater. And so when you think of LA, you really only think of television. And at that time, Lassie, it was the biggest star on TV. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. I didn't think too much about being a movie star, which seemed much too overwhelming and too crazy or insane. But doing theater out of New York and staying busy doing theater out of New York, I knew it could be a possibility for me. So I never thought about coming to Los Angeles. I always, there was like no choice. It was like if you don't go to New York, then you can't make it,
Yeah.
So I moved to New York then when I was really young, like barely 18. And I talk about that in a book I'm writing.
Oh, cool.
About going there so young and thinking that I'm really grown, but I'm not. I'm still a baby, but I thought I was grown. And I started auditioning right away. I got a manager right away. I got cast in Hair right away. So I got I got some nice parts. A lot of people don't realize that show business, if you're going to be in it, it's really important that you start when you're young. And when you're young is when all the opportunities, the best opportunities are when you're 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. And if you haven't really gotten some decent credits under your belt by the time you're 27 or so, it's probably not going to happen. And I know that there are some exceptions to that rule, but when I was about 35 or 40 and I was teaching acting in LA, I would tell girls, if you wait till you're 30, it's too late. You got to hit it when you're young and get those first credits and get your foot in the door when you're young, because when you're 30, it's too late.
No, that makes sense. So when did your first credit happen when it comes to acting? The first thing on IMDb, obviously you're doing acting on stage, but the first one on here is called The Pickle Goes in the Middle in 1973.
That was, I had gone back to Dallas from New York and I got that movie, and it was just a low budget movie, but it was the movie that forced me to have to join the union. I'd done some non-union film in New York, and there was a lot of it in the late 60s, early 70s. There was a lot of non-union indie films, and I had done some of those. And then when I got The Pickle Goes in the Middle, I was forced to join the union. And, that was a very proud day, actually. And so anyway, I did that. That was my first union film. Yeah. But I had done some films before. As a matter of fact, I had auditioned, and I don't remember if I got the part or not. I don't think I did, but I auditioned for Robert Downey Jr.'s father.
Oh, wow.
Robert Downey Sr., for a very independent film he did, and I can't remember the name of it. So but I remember when that was kind of a peculiar name and one I would remember. And then when Robert Downey Jr. made it so big, I thought, well, I auditioned for his dad, when he might not have even been, he probably wasn't even born, or he was born, but, I don't know. Anyway, New York was, it was scarier there too. You go up these rickety elevators and go audition in these little spaces. And, I lucked out and didn't get murdered or raped or killed or anything, but could have come close.
Yeah. Especially pretty much after that, that's when it got really rough. Like the Bronx is Burning, like the mid-70s, Son of Sam. It was a lot of craziness going on throughout that time.
Yeah. You know what? But when you're young, you think that nothing bad can happen.
Oh, totally.
And that you think you have the answers and you're going to be fine, and mom, quit worrying about me, blah, 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 And I think that all teenagers, if they're normal, go through that. And I did not feel vulnerable at the time. I felt like I could accomplish anything and go after anything if I worked hard enough. And I think that was the main ingredient for everything that I did or ended up doing, was that I worked my butt off. And I think that people that aren't doing it, but that want to do it, think that it looks easy. And it is very, very hard. It is very, very hard it's a hard life. It's a hard career. It's very competitive. It's very nasty. You have to have a really tough, thick skin to be able to handle the rejection. And, that's just part of it. And if you're not made of that, and most people are not, you might get a film or two and then you go home to Kansas,
Yeah.
And that's what happens to so many young people. They come here and they think they're going to take Hollywood by storm. And if they haven't made it in 3 years, they maybe or 10. If they say they're going to give it 10 years, they tuck their tail between their legs and run home, because it's hard, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, it's a survival of the fittest. I've talked to a couple people that when they moved out there, they had buddies with them. He said one by one, they just like all went back to, it was a different part of Texas, and he worked in like special effects, but. No, I hear you on that. So how did Happy Days come about?
Well, that, I also like to emphasize that so many opportunities are through who you know.
Oh,
and
sure.
I'd gone to high school and won some of those awards with a guy who was my age, who had moved to Hollywood. I moved to New York and he moved to LA when we were 17 or 18. And he ended up getting a job as a writer on Happy Days.
Oh, wow.
Then he became one of the top producers on Happy Days and was very tight with Gary Marshall. So when I came to LA, he had told me to call him. I called him the first day that I got here. And he said, well, come to the set tomorrow at Paramount. And so I did, and Henry Winkler came right up to me and said, hi, I'm Henry, and this was the first season. So he wasn't a huge star by then. He was big, he instantly took off, but he was not a huge household name yet. And he said, hey, man, make her my girlfriend. And so Bill wrote me in that week, and that was my first Hollywood job.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. And again, his name is William S. Bickley, Bill Bickley, and we're still very good friends and neighbors, actually. So,
really?
Yeah. So after all these years from being, I've known him and Morgan, and he was in that same theater group that Morgan and I were in when we were 14 and 15 years old, and we're all still friends.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah. I mean, this is cool because I haven't really talked about some of this stuff before on interviews. So this is really cool that it's a different spin because, some of the stories I just tell over again and it becomes automatic, but I haven't told these stories. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I'm lucky. Look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking at Bill's credits. Man, that guy, whew, that is unreal.
He's powerful. He's a powerful person, and he's also a wonderful writer and a wonderful person. So he deserved the success. He was very, very successful in this town. That's hard to do.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. And it's more consistent. Like a lot of people sometimes can write a hit show or be on one show. And no, it seemed like everything he touched turned into gold. He was like the ABC Friday night. Like me growing up, I watched TGIF every Friday. And it was like him, Step by Step, Family Matters. That's so cool.
Oh, yeah. He did them all. Yeah, we met for dinner a couple of months ago and hung out. I talked to him, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah, I'm still it was kind of like, it was a very unique high school we attended. You could kind of specialize in what your art form, like the music people went on to be professional musicians, and even the fine art painting people went on to be renowned dress designers. And it was a tiny school. There were only 150 people in our graduating class. So it was this tiny school. And so there weren't that many people in the drama department and the art department and the music department. But we had great teachers, and we all just went and stayed in the career that we wanted to do in high school.
That's cool that they give you that opportunity, because then you have that tunnel vision towards it, which is good at times, rather than just, learning all the basic core classes and trying to figure out when you're 18, at least you have some classes leading up to that.
Oh, yeah, because by the time I was 18, I had won interscholastic league contests all over the place and was ready to audition in New York. Of course, I studied acting when I got to New York, but there was no need for me to go to a junior college in Texas and waste a couple of years. It was time to go and just jump in. And so I did that. And so did Bill, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, we had nice educations. I'm not saying I didn't go to college. I ended up going to NYU.
Which is amazing.
I went to NYU and acted and did commercials and things while I was in school.
What kind of commercials were you in? What kind of products were they for?
Oh my God, Toyota and Arthur Treacher's Fish and Chips. I mean, all kinds of things. I did that with Amy Irving. And then I did a couple of commercials when I was really young with Deborah Winger.
What? That's cool.
You can't keep up with all those things, but
I know. But that's cool.
Yeah.
So then from Happy Days, you had that little opportunity to be on that. And then it seems like a bunch of, like right from there, it looked like 1976 was a big year for you. You were in a lot of things.
That was big because, I had to go back to Dallas for some personal reasons and from New York, and got hired immediately in doing dinner theater, and all of those were comedies. So my comedy chops were quite tight. So when I moved to LA, I was on a tour with Pat Paulson doing Last of the Red Hot Lovers, Neil Simon's play, and his agent was with ICM. And he said, "Oh, you got to move to LA and we'll rep you." So I started with one of the top agents. And so he got me the Happy Day, Bill got me the Happy Days, but I started doing all this comedy. And then suddenly I'm doing Barnaby Jones, a drama, right? And I really liked doing that. I loved Buddy Ebsen and Pat Hingle. Pat Hingle was great. And so Pat Hingle could tell that I did not have a lot of film experience. And so one day he said, "Come to my trailer. I can tell you haven't been on the set a lot." And I said, "No, I haven't." And he said, "You're a really good actress, but you need to ask, if you need to hit your mark and you can't feel it, and you can't look down and go, 'Oh, yeah, well, there's the line. I have to stop there.'" And so he taught me how to ask for a sandbag and different things, etiquette on the set, and what to ask for and what not to do. And I could not have had more incredible teachers than Betty Upson and Pat Hingle.
That's awesome. Yeah, Barnaby Jones. That's so cool. And then Welcome Back, Kotter.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, by that time I was having a lot of fun. You know, it was fun, and I'd gone back out on the road and done more comedy and had come back to LA. So there were some times where I was out doing theater. The biggest theater piece was Night of the Iguana, which is not on my IMDb, but I played the Sue Lyon role in Night of the Iguana. So I took a break from the TV to do that at the Amundsen Theater with Richard Chamberlain, Raymond Massey, Eleanor Parker, Dorothy McGuire, and myself. And we started that in that play. I starred in that play with Richard Chamberlain at the Amundsen, and Tennessee Williams participated, and that was a huge thing. And so, again, you know, my love for the theater has always, I think I've always found it more satisfying than doing film. But I love to do both. You know, now I love to do both. But it's, you know, a lot of film work is getting your makeup and sit in your dressing room and wait, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, in St. Louis, when I go to St. Louis tomorrow, I'm going to be doing 5 shows in 3 days, live shows in 3 days with different audiences. And that's going to be nice. It's going to be fun.
Do you like it for the rush of the live audience?
Yeah, I like the interaction of the audience. I like to move the audience. We did 2 shows on Sunday, and people were laughing and they were crying. And, you know, it's nice to see people moved emotionally in real life, and to be able to you know, feel the power of that magic, you know, of making people think and feel things. It's great. And when you do, you don't know what people are thinking when they're watching you in a film or a TV show. They're just home eating popcorn or their dinner, and you're on in the background maybe, you know.
No, that's true.
When you're there, you know, I keep, sometimes at night, I'll watch 2.5 Men just in the background while I'm, you know, piddling or folding clothes or whatever. And it's just background noise. Yeah. And I'll tune into it for a few seconds and then tune back out of it, you know, because it's not hard to, you know, it's not hard to comprehend or anything. You don't have to think. And so, you know, you're just there.
That is so cool. So Welcome Back, Kotter, then right around that time, it doesn't have in particular the right order, but so Electra Woman and the Dinah Girl.
Yeah, Electra Woman and Dinah Girl was with Judy Strangis and Deidre Hall.
Yeah, and that was like 4. You did 4 of them, so that must have been pretty cool. Knowing like going to something that you're going to be in a bunch of something and working with the same people.
Well, it was a kids show, and my agent at the time was just happy to have me working, of course, and that was good, and that was his job. But playing Miss Dazzle, I had no idea that anybody would even ever see it, because I thought just children would see it. Yeah. And sometimes when I go to the conventions and sign autographs, people will come up and have Miss Dazzle pictures, and I'll go, "Where did you get that?" I mean, you know, like, why would you have even watched that? You know. So it's amazing what people actually will watch, and because it really was silly and a kids show.
Yeah, it kind of has that vibe of like when my dad used to like partake in marijuana and watch like HR Puffin stuff and Sigmund the Sea Monster. Like it seems like a kids show, but it seems like adults might enjoy it.
Right. So, you know, and then I did Kids from Caper, and sometimes I'll find clips of myself on YouTube that I don't put up. I don't know where people find these things, and they just put them up on YouTube, and there I am. So the other day I was talking to an actress named, I think you may have interviewed her, Christine DeBelle.
Yeah.
Okay, so Christine and I are friends.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and I was talking to her today. But anyway, sometimes she does a lot of the conventions, and so she finds her merchandise online. So I just typed in The Hills Have Eyes to see if I could see a poster I was not familiar with. And there I was, my image was printed on a tote bag and mugs and T-shirts and all this stuff. And I thought, wow. I mean, I didn't know somebody was making money off my image like that. And I guess once it's in public domain, I suppose you can do whatever you want. But I don't know what the rules are. My manager said something about it, but I wouldn't say anything. It's too big of a hassle to care if somebody has my picture. I guess it's flattering, really, that somebody would put my picture on a tote bag. But you get these cult followings of people who like your work, and those are your fans, and you want to interact with them, and so the conventions are nice because you get to meet them.
Yeah.
And they remember. I've learned more about my career from my fans than some of the things that I've retained in my mind about what I did. I forget things that I did.
Yeah, well, you're living the moment, and people are observing from the outside. So, no, I can understand that.
Yeah, and I'm always on to the next project.
Yeah,
once I'm done with one, I did a pilot in December called Stripped with Casper Van Diem and Brooke Lewis, and I play a very funny character in that.
That's awesome.
And that's for, I think, Hulu. And what's really cool is that I always, comedy's hard. Comedy is not as easy as drama. And I love the opportunity to be able to go and do a sitcom again, and be funny, because I feel like that is sort of my forte. So I would just be happy having, playing the old grandma in some sitcom now,
Yeah. Yeah. Stripped. I saw that name before. I'm helping Larry Hankin. I don't know if you're in the episode with him, but he's going to be on that show a few episodes.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I noticed that. I saw that, and I never got to ask him about it yet, but now I will.
I don't know him. I've never met him. But one of the producers, Brooke Lewis, was so excited that he was going to be on it.
Yeah, I know. Larry's a great guy. I only talked to him over the phone. He's out in California. But I've talked to him for about like 8-9 hours, and he's really super awesome guy.
Cool. 8 or 9 different times, you mean?
Yeah. No, not all in a row. So one thing that stuck out when I was like getting ready for this was on here, the unaired pilot of Three's Company.
Mm-hmm.
That I never knew that was a thing. So what was that like?
Well, it was not a pleasant experience. I had just gotten back from LA after doing some reshooting of The Hills Have Eyes. We had finished The Hills Have Eyes, and then they changed some of it. So we had to go back out and do another week out in the desert. And so I had just gotten in that day. I had sand in my hair. I was all, ripped apart from being in the desert, and in the grocery store shopping. And I was paged in the grocery store to come to the phone. And it was my agent who, I guess, the babysitter had told him where I was. And so he said, get over to ABC right now. And I said, well, I can't. I've got groceries. Get over there right now. So, okay, so I drop everything. I go to ABC. And there was already a girl playing Chrissy, and it wasn't working out in rehearsal. And so she already had 3 or 4 days under her belt. And so I only had 2 days to rehearse and then to shoot. So I had to learn all of those lines and learn the blocking and the timing in 2 days, and then the shoot. So I felt like I was just sort of not not at the top of my game because I was replacing somebody.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of people say they prefer mine to Suzanne's, but you know, it is what it is. I mean, I'd gotten to the point at that time that I just did not enjoy the process so much anymore. And it was just a lot of hurrying. And after we did the pilot, it was in front of a live audience. And they did not know who John Ritter was, but they did know who I was from Welcome Back, Kotter.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they certainly did not know who Joyce DeWitt was.
Yeah.
Both of them were new to the audience. So every single question that the audience, almost every single question that the audience asked was made to me. And so I was cute and bubbly and answered them. But I know that John Ritter was not happy with it at all. He had, it was his initial deal with ABC. So I believe he probably just didn't care for the attention I was getting.
There's egos, and then, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was that. So, I mean, and as it turned out, just the role in itself, no matter who really played Chrissy, that's going to be one of the most interesting roles of all the roles that were written for it. I never thought that Joyce's role was terribly interesting, and John's was, because John was a genius. He was a comedic genius, but it took a while for people to get to know who he was, and they didn't know who he was when we did the pilot.
So I'm looking on YouTube, and I was trying to see if they have the pilot, because sometimes they have things. I don't see like the full episode, but it looks like you sitting on the couch. They have like it says original theme to Three's Company pilot with no lyrics. I'll send you a photo of it like afterwards, but it looks like it doesn't look like Suzanne Summers.
It's out. They sold it. ABC sold the DVD of this huge package of Three's Company with a lot of the episodes, and my pilot was in there, and I was furious, but there was nothing I could do about it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'd never even seen it until somebody showed it to me. So anyway, it was included in the big DVD package. It's okay. You know what I mean? I went on to do some other things that I like, and Suzanne did not last all that long anyway. You know, there were a lot of egos on that set.
Yeah. So let's turn to something that I hope is a little happier. You just kind of mentioned it before, and I grew up loving it. I'm a huge Wes Craven fan. So The Hills Have Eyes, Brenda Carter. Were you a horror fan before any of this came about?
No, but I really was. I had done enough television to know that I was right on the brink of moving back to New York to go back into the theater, because I just went, I really don't like this medium. I do not like TV. And I want to go do theater. I want to do serious stuff. And then I got the offer to star in The Hills Have Eyes. And doing movies to me is much more satisfying than doing television. Now, that being said, that was back in the 70s. And so things have changed. TV sets now are much more sophisticated. The scripts are fabulous. And, you know, it's changed since the silly 70 content, you know.
Yeah.
So when Wes offered me the role, I went, yeah. And my agent did not want me to do a horror movie. And I didn't like horror movies particularly. I loved Vincent Price from like Pit and the Pendulum and stuff like that when I was little. But I never thought about doing a horror movie. But I met with Wes Craven, and he was so cool and so nice, and offered me the lead. And I went, well, sure, I'll do that. Now, my agent hated it that I did it. But The Hills Have Eyes is the gift that keeps on giving. I met my husband because I did The Hills Have Eyes, so I got a husband out of the deal. Yes, he had seen it the night before I met him. And so I I'm very grateful. The Hills Have Eyes has played a huge part in my life. I just got asked to go to Moscow in March. They wanted to honor me at the Russian Horror Film Festival for a Lifetime Achievement Award in horror.
Congrats.
And so I thought, well, that's so cool,
Yeah.
And no, I wouldn't have picked horror to do. I would much rather be doing, Meryl Streep type of roles, but though, you don't get everything you want. So I feel lucky to have had the career I've had.
And now with horror, obviously, like the final product is something that, as a viewer, and as when I watched it when I was really young, it scared the living shit out of me. But while you're making it, it's obviously there's some it's not like you're thinking of it like that. But so what was that shoot like?
Well, it was hot in the summer. I mean, in the daytime, and cold at night. And Wes was fabulous, and it was low budget. So I had been getting I was used to having my own trailer, and so we all were in the same trailer, and so it was, kind of rough, but it was fun. It was fun. It was every project that I do, once everybody was serious about making a good movie, we all had the same goal in mind. We wanted it to be a good movie, but nobody, when we were shooting it, could have anticipated the impact that movie had and the success that it ended up having. Nobody would have ever guessed in a million years that it would have been successful.
And look where it is. So you're going to get honored in Russia because of it. And I think that cast is so cool. Like, I love Michael Berryman. He's been in so many different horror. He was in Weird Science. And Dee Wallace is in that movie too, which is so cool.
Yeah, yeah. Dee is my neighbor, and for a long time, Mike was my neighbor, but he's recently moved to Florida, so he does a lot of the horror conventions.
Yeah, I interviewed his manager, and she was really nice. She had great things to say about him.
Yeah. Judy Fox?
Yeah. Oh, my God, look at this. That's cool.
Yeah, she's nice.
Yeah,
she's a lovely lady.
So, one thing that is really cool on your IMDb was, obviously you took some time off, but what made you get back into it?
Well, I segued into music. And so
really?
in the 80s, I was with Downey Bramlett, formerly from the group Delaney and Bonnie and Friends.
Yeah, I was reading that.
And Delaney produced Eric Clapton's first album.
Oh, wow.
And I'd always wanted to do music, and I've always written songs. And so I really, after the last pilot I didn't care about. I did a pilot called Wilder and Wilder, and it didn't sell. And that was for CBS. And I was really sick of acting and being on the set. And I just wanted to do music. So I quit to do music for a long time and had a band and made money at it and wrote some nice songs with Delaney. And he was very successful. And so we just had a life of music and would hang out in the studio, and the studio was at our house. So I didn't have to go anywhere, and also I've always had a passion for photography. So I became a very well-known photographer.
Really? What'd you shoot?
I shot a lot of models, and I started off shooting actors' headshots, and then started getting modeling gigs, and then actually started shooting in Paris and New York and London, and I had a studio in Dallas, did a lot of work for Neiman Marcus. So I made really good money shooting. And so I did a shoot last week. I have a studio in my place, and
That's awesome.
I love to shoot. Yeah. So I'm not one of these people that want to sit around and wait for an acting job, because unless you are Meryl Streep, and you can work whenever you want, then you're sitting around waiting for somebody to say, okay, we're going to use you.
Yeah.
Like I just auditioned for a film I'm not supposed to talk about it. But anyway, I just auditioned for a film to play a very famous person's wife. And, they were all over me. Oh my God, that was great. That was fabulous. Whatever. And I haven't heard anything. Now, I might still get it. I might not. I probably didn't. But, you put all this energy and you get dressed and you drive to Hollywood and you go to you wait and then you audition and then you drive all the way home and you've wasted 2 days learning the lines and the process. And when you still don't get it, then it's tough. And everybody still has to audition. Big stars audition and don't get the part. So it's a tough, it's tough. So I don't want to wait for somebody to tell me. If I feel like creating something, I go in and write. I sit at the piano and write a song. Or I go to my typewriter and write on my book. I need to keep working. So, I think anybody who just waits to act is an idiot.
I think anybody, not even just acting, I think anybody that waits for anything in life is an idiot.
Yeah. I mean, it just doesn't work that way. You need to, you need to either be into raising your kids and waiting for the acting job or, unless you're on a soap, which goes every day, or you're on a series and then you don't have time for anything but that. So, and that would be lovely. I'd love to have a sitcom right now, but and that would be fine. My husband has passed away, so it's me and my dog, so I could do it now. But when I was younger, I did want to have time to raise my son and do stuff like that. So it's good not to put all of your eggs in one basket.
So here now, from all that you mentioned, because usually a lot of things I can't find online. So you said you're doing headshots, and this is in the 80s. Is that when you started doing that?
84.
84. Was there any people that were no names that you did the headshots for that went on to do anything?
Well, a lot of stars called me to do them, like Penny Marshall.
Oh, and that's awesome.
I shot a lot of people, but just because they hired me to shoot them.
Yeah.
It's decent money and you're having fun. I understood lighting from being in the theater from when I was so young. I started looking at the effects of lighting when I was 13 years old on stage, and really photography is about the lighting.
Oh, no, it's so important. And here's another question. Is there anything you can't do entertainment-wise and creative-wise? Do you paint too?
I'm sure there are a lot of things I can't do, but I can't dance anymore. I used to dance. I love dancing. I loved going to Joe Tremaine's dance class. He's the first one who did all those dance conventions way before what's her face, Abby Lee Miller. But no, I just love all art. I love all art, and I love people. So I like to study people and look at their mannerisms, and so I am an artist, and luckily can say I've never had a job outside of the art.
You know how to do so much. That helps. And I see it on here. You did a video short. You directed one.
Yeah. I'm really into writing and creating and directing right now. So I'm working on a horror movie that I'm writing and plan to direct. So I have that going. And, you just keep going till you get too tired to do it. Look at all the presidential candidates.
I know.
They're all near 80.
You can never stop. Yeah, you can never stop because
you just don't stop till you stop.
Yes. Well, that's so cool. Well, this has been really awesome. I've had a lot of fun.
Me too. Yeah, I got to go get packed because I'm getting a little bit of a scratchy throat, and I have to catch a very early plane in the morning. So,
all right. Well, thank you so much. I got so much.
Oh, thank you. I've had a great time, and I'm going to be releasing a CD soon, a new EP, and maybe we could talk about music on the next one.
Man, wasn't she awesome? So I'm going to put all of her social media links in the episode description so you could be able to follow her. She has a lot of cool stuff coming out, and it was a pleasure to talk to her. And it's pretty cool at the end. She was like, you know what? Let's talk again when my album comes out. So we'll definitely do that. Thanks again, Suze. And don't forget to tune in this Thursday. It's our interview with actress Lisa London, who's also a singer. And she plays a prostitute in the next film we're covering, Sudden Impact. It was directed and starred Clint Eastwood. So that'll be a blast. So make sure you subscribe, share, tell your friends, and also make sure you follow us on all social media at Sequels Only and our website, sequelsonly.com. Good night.